Is it?
All right, this is our extract presentation.
And you can follow along on the handout that we have shared with
I'm
you
Pablo.
via Google Docs. I'm Isaac.
Sanam.
Shut up.
You aren't even going to say your name. So
Okay.
our extract.
Okay, so we did Act 3, Scene 3, and in summary, it's just that Iago is trying to tell Othello that Desdemona is cheating on him, and this supports this by telling Othello that he saw Cassio wiping his beard with Desdemona's handkerchief, and he also saw Cassio dreaming of Desdemona, like talking to his sleep, and he's like talking to Desdemona while he's sleeping. So yeah,
And Iago happened to be in bed beside him.
yeah.
That's how you heard that.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
And then at the end, Othello becomes enraged because Iago convinces him that Desdemona is cheating on him with Cassio.
Alright, so we did a SOAPS analysis of this, which is basically the same thing. Subject is questioning Desdemona's infidelity. The occasion is Iago is trying to deceive Othello into thinking that that Desdemona is unfaithful, and Othello is trying to decide if it's true or not. I mean, at first he's like completely persuaded, but then he still kind of wants some more evidence. The audience is, it's only Iago and Othello in this scene, and then the actual audience is like the people watching the play. And then the purpose to understand Desdemona's loyalty or disloyalty, and to deceive Othello by convincing him that she is disloyal, which is what Iago is trying to do. And speaker, Iago and Othello.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is just our text.
Should we read it? Yeah?
I'll be
I'll be Iago.
I go.
Give me a living reason she's disloyal.
I do not like the office, but sith I am entered into this cause, so far pricked to it by foolish honesty and love, I will go on. I lay with Cassio lately, and being troubled with a raging tooth, I could not sleep. There are kind of men so loose of soul that in their sleeps will mutter their affairs. One of this kind is Cassio. In sleep I heard him say, "Sweet Desdemona, let us be wary, let us hide our loves." And then, sir, would he gripe and wring my hand, cry, "Oh, sweet creature," and then kiss me hard, as if he plucked up kisses by the roots that grew upon my lips, lay his leg over my thigh, and sigh, and kiss, and then cried, "Cursed fate that gave thee to the Moor."
Oh, monstrous, monstrous.
Nay, this was but his dream.
But this denoted a foregone conclusion.
Just a shrewd doubt, though it be but a dream, and this may help to thicken other proofs that do demonstrate thinly.
I'll tear her all to pieces.
Nay, yet be wise, yet we see nothing done. She may be honest yet. Tell me but this, have you not sometimes seen a handkerchief spotted with strawberries in your wife's hand?
I gave her such one. 'Twas my first gift.
I know not that, but such a handkerchief. I am sure it was your wife's. Did I today see Cassio wipe his beard with?
If it be that.
If it be that, or any that was hers, it speaks against her with the other proofs.
Oh, that the slave had 40,000 lives. One is too poor, too weak for my revenge. Now I do see 'tis true. Look here, Iago, all found my love. Thus I do blow to heaven, 'tis gone. Arise, black vengeance, from the hollow hell. Yield up, O love, thy crown and hearted throat. To tyrannous hate, swell bosom with thy fraught, for 'tis of aspics.
And these are like lines 416 to 458. You wanna
You want
look
to
that up, you know?
check in the book
Yeah.
in case you're interested.
Alright, so the overall theme we chose was blindness and deception, in other words, honest Iago. And so Iago presents himself as helpful, caring, and a trustworthy friend, and this is all false. So this false helpfulness and friendliness allows him to deceive and manipulate everybody around him, like Cassio, Rodrigo, and Othello. And then and he does that by making them believe he has their best interests in mind. That's his whole honest Iago persona.
And in this scene, we're focusing on his interaction with Othello and how he's like his trusty companion and how he is giving him advice and he supports him, but really he's just manipulating him.
And so we're looking at how honest Iago takes advantage of the other male characters, how their blindness of who he actually is. They only see this honest Iago that is this image he portrays of himself, and how he uses this blindness to really act on his schemes and try to take power.
You're kind of covering up Sanam.
Wow. Okay, so for the first quote, arise black vengeance from the hollow hell. Apostrophe is used, which is a figure of speech in which a person, a personified quality, or an object is addressed as if it is present. And personification is used, which is a figure of speech in which a thing, an idea, or an animal is given human attributes. And epithet is used, which is an adjective expressing a quality characteristic of the thing mentioned. And finally, a metaphor, which is a figure of speech which makes an implicit implied or hidden comparison between two things or objects.
Come on.
Don't touch it too many times, it
Okay.
spaz out. Okay.
So, when Othello says, arise, black vengeance from the hollow hill, he says this as a response to Iago's claim when he says that he saw Cassio wiping his beard with Desdemona's handkerchief, which Othello gave her as a gift. And this reinforces all the other lies that Iago ingrained in Othello's mind through his role as honest Iago. And all of this makes Othello see this as irrefutable evidence of Desdemona's infidelity. And he eventually drives Othello to the point of putting aside all his love and affection towards Desdemona and turning his attention towards revenge and evil acts. So, when Othello, he tells his vengeance to rise from the hollow hell, so this emphasizes his enormous power, because the vengeance is not really there, and this ultimately becomes his tragic fall because Iago, through his role as honest Iago, manipulates him and misusing that power for revenge and evil. And through this apostrophe, he personifies vengeance by giving it human-like qualities of rising from the hollow hell, and that emphasizes the hell which was created by honest Iago, since this was a response to Iago's claim. And through this personification apostrophe, Othello uses hollow as an epithet when he applies it to the word hell, which symbolizes Iago's influence, since the hell, which really refers to the revenge and destruction that he there does in the Act 4 and 5. So before that, the hell was hollow, but Iago's influence filled in that void and became filled. And through this apostrophe personification epithet, when he associates blackness with evil when he says black vengeance, he ultimately fulfills that stereotype as a black villain that is very stereotypical during that time, and this was just what Iago wanted to do. And so just this quote just shows Othello's shift in character from heavenly to hellish, I guess.
As a result of honest Iago and his deception. Oh yeah, this one's So I chose, this is Iago speaking, and he says, "But sith I am entered in this cause so far, pricked to it by foolish honesty and love, I will go on." So I found a series of literary devices, and they all kind of lead into each other to make the overall meaning and message behind this. So first, diction is choice of words used in writing or speech. False attribution is a informal logical fallacy. That is when one uses irrelevant, biased, unidentified, or even fabricated source to support an argument. Appeal to authority/purity is another informal logical fallacy. That is when one uses the fact that someone has authority or purity to assume that whatever he or she says is true. So you'll see that in here. So in this quote, Iago claims he's reluctant to continue what he's saying, but his foolish honesty and love for/loyalty to Othello, paired with the fact that he has already gone so far, will make him continue. He turns his reluctance and his explanation of his reluctance into a compliment for himself, so he makes himself appear better or more honest in front of Othello, and he convinces Othello that he has Othello's well-being at heart. And then lastly, his masterful use of language at the same time reveals Shakespeare's portrayal of Iago as cunning and manipulative character, and we begin to understand why he's able to deceive his opponents so effectively. So first diction, where he says prick to it. So the word pricked is kind of implies that he's forced by his honesty and love. And so that's really just all I was looking at with the diction. So with this diction, it's false attribution because he's removing his blame for continuing. He's removing the blame from himself. He's saying instead that his involvement already, his foolish honesty and his love is like forcing him to go on and forcing him to continue telling Othello. So he's really removing blame from himself. When in fact it's his own decision, like nothing's really forcing him to continue speaking with Othello and telling him about Desdemona's alleged infidelity. And then last is the appeal to authority and purity. So through the diction of pricked and the false attribution I already explained that. So Iago is creating this persona for himself where he is foolishly honest, loving of and loyal to Othello and has only the well-being of Othello in his mind through his decisions. So by making this persona through his crafty diction and his false attribution, he's appealing to his own authority and purity and making his persona of honest Iago. And in this way, he can say whatever he wants, and Othello will think that it's true because he has this whole image of himself. So that's the whole appeal to authority and purity.
Okay, so I looked at the quote, "Cry, O sweet creature, and kiss me hard, as if you plucked up kisses by the roots that grew upon my lips." So Iago is saying this when he's like providing evidence of Cassio and Desdemona's affair, and it's basically just to rile up Othello. Okay. Wait, I think we skipped a slide. Can we go back real fast? Because I defined the literary devices. Okay, so I also looked at 3 literary devices. Metaphor, which is a word or phrase used to compare two unlike objects, ideas, thoughts, or feelings for a clear description. I also looked at diction, the author's specific and precise choice of words. And then this considers the association, connotation, and general power and impact of words. And then I also looked at apostrophe, a figure of speech in which a person, a personified quality, or an object is addressed as if present. Okay, so to prove that Desdemona is unfaithful, Iago kind of creates this scenario where Cassio is dreaming and he admits to like being with Desdemona, and then he like cuddles up to Iago or whatever, and then that's also when he says, "Crying, oh sweet creature," because he's referring to Desdemona, but that's actually Iago. It's just because he's dreaming. So, as if this isn't enough, just telling Othello about like Desdemona's or Cassio's confession, Iago kind of exaggerates the words and embellishes them to just like give Othello the impression that Cassio is acting out of like selfishness, and he really has no remorse for his affair with Desdemona. And Cassio is one of Othello's really good friends and like trusted advisors. So this seems like Cassio is really going behind Othello's back, and this is just a tactic of Iago to manipulate Othello and to try and infuriate him even more. Okay, so looking at the literary devices, you see a metaphor when Iago is describing the pretend kiss as like a flower, because he uses words like plucked and roots and grew, and then that also ties into the diction, but this is a metaphor because it gives like the vivid mental image of like the forcefulness and the passion that Cassio is displaying, and Othello is just getting really mad because of this. But so yeah, the diction. So Iago has a mini theme of like uprooting the flowers or plants by using words like plucked, roots, and grew. And this association is Iago's way of expressing Cassio's terribleness and immaturity. And yeah. And then for the apostrophe, Iago is just calling out to or Cassio is saying that Iago is telling that Cassio is crying out, "Oh sweet creature," which is actually Desdemona, but this is apostrophe because it's addressing somebody who isn't actually present in the scene. And then Iago is just trying to convey how entranced Cassio is with Othello's wife and trying to upset him and convince him even more.
So the quote that I did is from, this is Iago talking, and he's talking about Cassio's dream, and he says, "'Tis a shrewd doubt, though it be but a dream, and this may help to thicken other proofs that do demonstrate thinly." And so personification is one of the things that I talked about, and we've like defined that a bunch. So. And then the other one I talked about is oxymoron, which is a figure of speech in which apparently contradictory terms appear in conjunction. So in order to further his deception of Othello, Iago pretends that he's uncertain of his perception of Desdemona's unfaithfulness. So basically what he's saying is because like, oh, I just have this like small doubt about Desdemona, he's trying to make it seem like he's not really pushing Othello towards thinking that Desdemona's unfaithful, but really by like even planting the doubt in his mind that he is pushing Othello towards that. And so this builds his honest Iago persona and builds trust between Iago and Othello. And Iago knows that he's lying, but he uses his uncertainty to actually make himself seem more truthful. Because when you lie to someone, you aren't going to be like, yeah, this is 100% the truth. And so in personification, she says that the doubt from the dream will help thicken, and is showing that the doubt will thicken, which is a verb. Assigning a verb to something that can't actually do something. And this will, Desdemona's unfaithfulness, and is helping to increase the other suspicions surrounding Desdemona's faithfulness. And then also demonstrate thinly, it shows that the doubts that Iago has so far listed are thinly demonstrating Desdemona's unfaithfulness, but this new doubt will thicken that unfaithfulness. And then the oxymoron comes from the phrase shrewd doubt. And shrewd means astute, which is actually like kind of like very firm, whereas doubt is kind of the opposite of that. And so those two words together show that it's kind of a firm doubt. So a doubt that doesn't actually, like, that is somehow, he knows that it's true even though
It's really
he's doubting it.
Certain.
Yeah, it's like a certain doubt. Which doesn't make sense, but it kind of tricks Othello into thinking that Iago really, really knows what he's talking about, and that's what's oxymoron. And so they create this like kind of contradictory meaning, which is what oxymoron is.
What's the difference between oxymoron and juxtaposition?
Juxtaposition is like two things that are very different,
that are
compared to each other. Oxymoron's like two words that have like opposite meanings put next to each other.
It's like what is the Tale of Two Cities, or it's like, it was the best of times, worst of times, yeah. So as a whole, these literary devices kind of show how, in both Iago's language and Othello's language, they show how Shakespeare's really creating this, this overall theme of honest Iago and this image that he's creating for himself, and how this honest Iago persona is ultimately like his means of achieving everything he wants, because of the deception that he uses and the blindness of the other characters to this honest Iago.
By seeming like really trustworthy and then basically just letting all like Roderigo, Cassio, and Othello just like fall and crash and burn. Yeah.
Any questions?
Alright.
Thank you.
Camera?
Can you turn it on?
Camera?